to our breaking news, the latest legal action against President Trump. In a ruling a few minutes ago, a judge said that Donald Trump must pay $354 million for fraudulently overstating his net worth. Let's try and explain exactly what is going on here. Our US correspondent James Matthews standing by, I'm sure, with all the analysis. So he has to pay the best part of 300 million quid for fraudulently overstating his net worth. I think the one thing we can say with certainty, James, is that his net worth is about to be significantly reduced.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's about a quarter of his net worth as assessed by the likes of Forbes magazine. They reckon that Trump is worth around about 4 times that amount. But yeah, this all stems from Trump building his empire, buying expensive buildings, golf courses, styling himself as the king of New York real estate. Well, certainly the crown has slipped this evening. What he did in trying to raise the money to buy all this property was to inflate the value to the tune of around $3 billion, according to the people who were prosecuting this case. So the likes of Trump Tower, golf courses, various estates around about Manhattan, they were all bought basically on false premises. Trump would claim that they were worth far more than they actually were. His apartment in Trump Tower is a case in point. That apartment, the size of it is 10,000 square feet. He claimed it was 30,000. So that's the kind of game that he was playing, along with others in the Trump organization, including his sons. Now, the penalty that they are going to have to pay and endure for this scam, this fraud, is that, yeah, they pay that money, nearly $370 million, which the people prosecuting this were after, but they're also banned from doing business in their heartland, in New York. Donald Trump for 3 years, his sons Donald Jr. and Eric for 2 years each. So this is a hefty blow to Donald Trump, not just in the pocket, clearly, but also in terms of Donald Trump, the brand. As I say, King of New York, the man who built an empire in Manhattan that propelled him to celebrity status, propelled him also to the White House, on his name and on business success. You look at it now and it looks like it was built on straw. He is taking an extremely hefty hit. And in terms of the cash arrangements for this, Neil, it's not as if he can dodge it, because yes, he will appeal. He said that was always going to be the case. But right now, with this finding, he has to lodge that money so that it's held in a bank, so that it goes to its rightful owner should he lose that appeal. So he's going to have to find a lot of cash in a hurry. Today, the 354, but don't forget, just a couple of weeks ago, he was in it for $85 million. That's what he was sued for by E. Jean Carroll, a woman who he sexually assaulted.
James, we'll be back to you in just a second. Just want to read people a statement from the legal spokesman, Alina Habba, the spokesman for Donald Trump. Here's what it says. This verdict is a manifest injustice, plain and simple. It is the culmination of a multi-year politically fueled witch hunt that was designed to take down Donald Trump before Letitia James ever stepped foot into the Attorney General's office. Countless hours of testimony, this statement again coming from Donald Trump's legal team, countless hours of testimony proved that there was no wrongdoing, no crime and no victim. Given the grave stakes, the statement continues, we trust that the appellate division will overturn this egregious verdict and end this relentless persecution against my clients. Let me make one thing clear. That is these are the words from Alina Habba, his lawyer. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. This is not about Donald Trump. If this decision stands, it will serve as a signal to every single American that New York is no longer open for business. Much, much more, I suspect, on President Trump and his legal woes throughout the programme. But we can actually speak speak again to James Matthews, who's been sitting there listening to this. I mean, as statements go from a lawyer, I'm not sure that I've ever read something quite like that. Plenty of use of adjective, which is not necessarily something that you tend to find from lawyers.
That's right, Neil. Yeah, Alina Habba, very close to Donald Trump, clearly very close to his narrative in all of this. And, you listen to that, and it could have been written by Trump himself, railing against the establishment. And, you know, that works for him politically, doesn't it? The polls show that. There is this entrenched support for Donald Trump that won't listen to anything other than he is the victim of a stitch up. That's why that statement reads the way it does. That's why we hear Donald Trump speaking like that outside of courtrooms only recently, yesterday. I mean, that is his campaign pulpit, the courtroom, outside court buildings, essentially just furthering that narrative that is bought by a large part of the electorate here. And that's the key for him in this election. If people buy that argument, then come polling day in November, they will see him as a victim of injustice, a man who is taking on the establishment. It worked for him in 2016. He hopes it can work for him again. And if it does, it gets him into the White House. And of course, that puts him in a position of power with which he can operate against the trials and the legal difficulties that he faces. 4 criminal trials. Don't forget the first one to take place was fixed yesterday. That's due to start with jury selection on March the 25th. So that statement you read, Neil, expect to hear plenty more of that statement over the coming weeks and months. That's
I mean,
sentiment, rather.
sorry to interrupt, James, but you, I mean, you've already mentioned E. Jean Carroll, that defamation trial. I mean, you know, the $83.3 million paid out by Donald Trump in that instance, and it's had not an effect on the polls whatsoever. I suppose my question's a rather more esoteric one, James. I mean, what does it say about the state of the body politic in the United States that, given all of these court cases, they still feel such disaffection with Washington politics that they'd rather Donald Trump be prime minister, be president than anyone else?
Yeah, president, president here, prime minister. Who knows? Who knows where the Donald Trump journey takes him? But you're right. I mean, I think one of the downsides of the system in all of this in the United States that plays into that narrative and the partisan nature of everything is that the people who drive these court cases are elected officials. Democrats prosecuting the man at the heart of the Make America Great Again movement. So you can see how it is easy to spin a particular set of circumstances to suit one's politics. And that's certainly what Donald Trump has done. I think the difficulty he has, Neil, it's fine, yeah, he's got as far as he has thus far, portraying himself as a victim, calling cases like this a witch hunt. But the opinion polls that have him ahead of Biden at the moment, they also indicate that should he be convicted, then when things get serious at the election, but also in terms of selection of the Republican nominee, voters, a sufficient number of voters in key swing states are switched off by the notion of voting or supporting a convicted felon. And there is every chance that that is a scenario they will be presented with. If you look at the calendar, that first criminal trial starts on March the 25th. They reckon it will take 4 to 6 weeks. There is another one in the pipeline, of course, the election interference case due to take place in Washington. Strong evidence in particular on that second one, and that could be done sometime midsummer. The Republican convention is in July. That's when they will pick their nominee or rubber stamp Donald Trump, the way things are shaping up. He will be wary of being convicted in court because that will play badly for him. That's what the opinion polls certainly are telling us at the moment.
James, for now, thanks very much indeed.